I'm a master procrastinator, and here are my 10 tips that actually work for me that I use to overcome procrastination. So the first tip is tiny habits, and this is something that was coined by BJ Fogg, and he has a TED talk about tiny habits, so you can go off and watch that. I swear by tiny habits, and I will come back to exactly what they are and give an example a little bit later. The second thing that ties into tiny habits is habit tracking, and I use a habit tracking app. Specifically, I use an app called Habit Share, and you can put all your tiny habits in, and then you go in each day and you tick them off. I do recommend having tiny habits, and then you can, just making them really small so that you can start to see them all being ticked off. The third thing is starting with something super easy. So the first habit that I have that I start my day off with is Duolingo. It only takes a few minutes, and it is something that I find really easy to do. The whole Duolingo app has a bit of a reward system, a bit like a game, but it essentially just takes a few minutes every single day, and this is something that I enjoy. It feels like I am making progress, but also it is starting my day off right. So that follows into number 4, which is stacking your morning routine. So I'll give you an example of mine. So now I don't have children. I know that it can be very different if you have children or you work shift work, but for me, I don't have children. So what works for me is I start the morning doing a few minutes on Duolingo. I literally I don't even get out of bed. I'm still in my bed, and I get my phone and I jump on Duolingo. Then I get up and I just do a couple of minutes stretch. I have a routine that I do. So same thing, I don't have to think about it. I just do the routine and it only takes a couple of minutes. I then go for a walk. I come back, I have a shower, I make a smoothie. Then I write in my gratitude journal, which is only 3 really short lines. So that only takes a couple of minutes. And then I start to get ready for work, which again is all stacked. So why I think this is really important is I noticed, so I was learning Duolingo for 380 days straight. I did miss a couple, but I stayed on the Duolingo streak for 380 days. Then I decided I don't want to do this anymore. I've achieved that goal and I'm going to move on to something else. But what happened was, because my habits were stacked and Duolingo was really easy, I actually ruined my morning routine. I also did move house at the same time, which also messed up my morning routine. But I have now gone back to Duolingo, and I'm learning a different language because for me, I love learning, but it's actually more about the routine itself and the stacking of the routine than the goal of learning the language. So what I found was when I stopped Duolingo, I actually then I was messing up the rest of my routine. So because I wasn't doing Duolingo, I was like scrolling on Instagram, or I was just laying in bed, or I would forget to do my stretching in the morning. I might go for a walk, but then I wasn't doing my stretching. And so I got completely out of routine, and I realized that I needed something really, really, really tiny that felt rewarding. And I know people talk a lot about make your bed, and it has the same concept. For me, making the bed is not that thing. I don't really feel that sense of accomplishment from making my bed. I don't care if I make my bed or I don't make my bed. But for me, Duolingo was that one easy, quick win. And it was the start of my habit stacking. The same as BJ Fogg would describe in his TED talk. If you habit stack, you might always floss your teeth directly after you brush your teeth. So it's something you always do. You get into a routine, you don't have to think about it, it just always happens. For me, I never floss my teeth before I brush them. I always brush and then floss. So I never think to floss my teeth before I brush them, and then I don't have to think about that action. So that is what habit stacking is, and that's why I habit stack my morning routine. And I also make sure a lot of those things are only a few minutes here and there. Another thing, number 5, is find things you enjoy. And I know that might sound a bit silly, but it is really important. So I did recently move house, and I found that I don't enjoy my walks as much as when I used to live near the beach. I do still live near the water, but I just don't enjoy them quite as much, and I don't bounce out of bed anymore to race down to see the sunrise. The same as going to the gym. I don't enjoy going to the gym as much as I do going for a walk, so I prioritize going for a walk over the gym because I'm more likely to do it because I enjoy it. So find things that you actually enjoy and really think about, what are some of the things that I'm trying to introduce to my life? Do I really enjoy those, or does it just feel like I should do it because everybody else does it? If you should do it because everybody else does it, but you don't really need to do it, scrap it. Obviously there are going to be things that you will need to do in life, but try and find a lot of things that you actually enjoy doing. Even my stretching, I only keep it to a few minutes, back to the tiny habits, because it's easy and enjoyable. Number 6, schedule productive time and relaxing time. So this is actually something that I'm not always that good at doing. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. But what I find is the times when I schedule, so I start my stacked morning routine with my tiny habits, and then I flow straight into, if it's a Saturday morning, okay, off straight to the supermarket. Once I start to mess with that routine and start to think about, what am I going to do? When am I going to do it? Oh, maybe I'll go for a walk later today. Today's a classic example. I went and caught up with someone for coffee, so I didn't go and do my grocery shopping, and I haven't gone and done my walk. And it sort of messes with my routine that I really have to put more effort into thinking about, what am I going to do when? Those are the days when I procrastinate the most. So schedule your time for productivity, and just as importantly, schedule time for relaxing. So instead of saying, oh, maybe I'll just sit here and scroll on my phone. No, at 5 o'clock today, I am going to schedule rest time where I can sit down and read my book, or I can sit there and watch Disney Plus and watch the latest thing that I'm watching, or Netflix, because I know that that's coming, and I can do that without guilt. So that goes into my next point, which is point 7, rest without guilt. So many years ago, I did a coaching program with Sam Laura Brown, and the program's called PGSD. The program is by Sam Laura Brown, and it's PGSD, which is perfectionist getting shit done. I could relate to that because I like getting shit done, and I am a procrastinator. So one of the big things that I really learned from her was resting without guilt. And that comes down to scheduling time for rest, but rest without guilt. So I realized as I was growing up, it wasn't really acceptable to sit around, really. And so what that taught me was that I wasn't allowed to rest, and I wasn't allowed to, for instance, watch TV during the day. And my family were not readers, so reading wasn't a reward as such. You didn't really do it. So I have found that I've had to learn to rest without guilt. But you do need to be able to rest without guilt, because if you are resting, it essentially becomes procrastinating if you're doing it with guilt. So that's where you start scrolling on your phone. If you haven't allocated that time to scroll on your phone and rest, then it becomes a guilt-ridden activity, and you're more likely to procrastinate. So that was probably my biggest takeaway that I learned that I've really taken on board. Number 8, take the time to understand what's stopping you from actually doing the things that you need to do. So for example, me recording my videos, I have procrastinated on this for a while. There's also a few things like around procrastinating, procrastinating, like I'm procrastinating doing the thing that I really want to do because there is fear there. There might be fear of not doing a good job, fear of judgment, fear of not getting people not actually liking my videos. So even though those things might not be at the front, like I don't necessarily get nervous about talking in front of a camera anymore, those things might be a subconscious thing that is holding me back. I'm not an expert, or I may not come across the way I think that other people come across, even though that's not necessarily true. So those subconscious thoughts that you're not even really aware that are happening could be also causing some of your procrastination. So it can help to maybe journal it or just have a think. But yeah, definitely writing it down in a journal is probably, or on a piece of paper that you can screw up and throw away, is probably really helpful to think about. What are those subconscious things that are stopping me from doing the activities that I need to be doing? 9 is do something to raise your energy. So sometimes when we're feeling low energy or low vibe, you might hear people talk about raise your vibe or low vibe. When we're feeling low energy, we can start to get into a rut and we can start to procrastinate. And I know that this is what happens to me, so I'm just talking from these things. What happens to me is if I haven't started my day off, again, coming back to that stacked routine, but doing something that's energizing, doing that routine, but especially doing an activity or going for a walk or catching up with friends and really feeling, even learning something. Learning something for me raises my energy. So doing something that raises your energy, you're more likely then to get in and do things. If your energy is low, then you're gonna think, I'm tired, I can't be bothered, maybe I need to rest, maybe I'll just scroll on social media. So choose something that actually raises your energy first before you start to think about whether it be household chores or any sort of study or filming or anything like that that you want to do. And finally, number 10, just start with one thing. So I often find that I think, oh, I've got so many things to do and I don't know where to start. And sometimes it's as simple as going and put a load of washing on because it feels easy, but you've been productive. Or go and take the bin out because it feels easy, but it feels productive. Do some dishes because it feels easy, but it feels productive. So just pick one thing. Don't think about everything that comes ahead of that. Just pick the one thing. So those are probably some of the 3 things that I really like to start off with is, just putting the rubbish out, doing the dishes, or putting a load of washing on, because anything that comes after that, you may tend to get in a flow once you've done that. So just recapping, I really, really love and highly recommend tiny habits. I will do another video going into a lot more detail on tiny habits, a bit more examples around those and how I use them and why I think they're so effective. But in the meantime, you can go and watch BJ Fogg's TED Talk. Start with something super easy, stack your morning routine or stack any routine, find things you enjoy and get rid of the things that you don't. Schedule productivity time and, most importantly, time to relax. Rest without guilt. Take the time to understand what is stopping you from actually feeling, what's actually stopping you from doing what it is that you want to be doing. Do something first and foremost to raise your energy, whether that's go for a walk, go to the gym, maybe it's just like 10 sit-ups. That might be enough. Sometimes, something like going to the gym can feel overwhelming because get changed, get to the gym. So just start with something super, super easy and just start with one thing. If you liked this video and you found it helpful or you even somewhat enjoyed it, I would love if you could like or even leave a comment. Thank you.